begin the afternoon now with the panel discussion on the new age of retailing, retailing in a digital world. We have 6 eminent panelists for you today. So first, I'd like to introduce you to Gilles Moutounet, the L'Occitane India Private Limited Country Head. Gilles heads the overall supervision of activity and development of L'Occitane brand footprint in India as part of its strategic growth in the Asian markets. He has a wide range of experience in luxury industries, luxury retail, and fashion. A graduate in commerce from Supticom Amiens in France, Gilles has had his first experience working in India back in 1991 and as a trade attaché at the French Trade Commission, Bombay. Our next panelist is Harminder Sahni, the founder of Wazir Advisors. Harminder is a veteran of the retail and consumer sectors. Wazir Advisors is a management consulting firm focused on consumer-centric businesses. Wazir provides advice on strategy, alliance, and implementation to its Indian and international clientele. Next, we have Asif Merchant, the director of Catwalk. Asif has been the managing director of Catwalk Worldwide since its inception. With the focus on product design and development, Asif anchors retail and strategic planning for the business. With 30 years of experience in Indian footwear industry, Asif governs designing, developing, and implementation of all strategic plans for the organization. Our fourth panelist is Asim Dalal, the managing director of the Bombay store. Over the past 21 years, Asim has garnered invaluable experience in international banking, project finance, stock brokering, and printing and retailing. Today, he manages the sourcing, expansion, business development, and financial planning of the Bombay store. Our fifth panelist is Atul Ahuja, the vice president of retail at Apollo Pharmacy. Atul leads the strategic initiatives of Apollo Pharmacy, India's largest pharmacy chain with more than 1,800 retail outlets spread across the country. He heads the merchandising, private label development, and supply chain functions at Apollo's pharmacies. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to your moderator, Jayant Kochhar, the Managing Director of Go Fish Retail Solutions. Jayant is one of the pioneers of the Indian retail industry. He is the founder and Managing Director at Go Fish Retail Solutions, provider of advisory solutions to the retail industry. And prior to this, he served as a Managing Director of Lacoste and Barista, where he played an instrumental role in bringing these 2 brands to India. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming your panelists and moderator to the stage. And Jayant, I'll hand over the session to you now.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Wow. You know, I knew it was a big mistake to start this session, this conference off with a session on funding. Because as soon as Mahesh finished telling everyone how difficult it is to get funding, half the crowd is left and the other half is in deep depression. And I don't think, so let's try this again. Good afternoon, everybody. Much better. I'm so glad we got some life here. Otherwise it's like when I'm at home talking to my wife, I just go on talking and she doesn't answer. And you guys have got a problem because we've got 5 married guys up here and 6 along with me. And typically what happens is, at home, we don't get much of a chance to talk. So when you go on here, we could go on and on and on and on, when somebody gives you a mic. So you've got to make sure you come in with your questions or comments or observations or whatever you like as we go along, and keep it as lively as you can. Okay, so what the kind lady didn't tell you is that I'm something of a dinosaur in the retail industry. I started in 1992. Some of the people here don't look like they were born in that year, but that's when we started retailing in India. And over the years, I think one thing that's happened is I've spoken at a lot of conferences, and most people reserve their applause till the end. I'd like you to put it together once for your panel right at the beginning as a kind of motivation and encouragement. And I'm sure that it's going to help to bring out, I also recommend when you go to a restaurant in future, try tipping the waiter before you sit down for your meal, not after. You're likely to get much better service. That's the way it happens here too. Okay, so I'm going to start with the proposition, which you hear a lot of, which says that retail is dead. And everyone is talking about the fact that retail is dead. I want to apologize at the start because this presentation was prepared on a Mac, but they can't show it on a Mac, so I'm constrained to use a PC, and all the visuals and all the text is likely to go out the window. Okay, so retail is dead. We keep hearing this all the time. Every day you read in the papers about how e-commerce and various other things are killing retail in India. And in a way, retail is a business that keeps dying all the time. Retail is a business that needs to keep reinventing itself, keep reinvigorating itself, and if it doesn't do that, yes, it does tend to die. But as of now, I think there are many reasons why people are saying that retail is dead and ready to sort of bury it deep into the ground. But I would suggest that possibly it is just a great time for a rebirth of retail. And if you look at the history of retail over the last 20 years, I think that possibly one of the problems that retail is facing today is that all these years, retailers have had one strategy. Let's grow. Let's open more stores. And they've thought that that is going to be the answer to all the ills and help them to perform. Not really the case. And I think as they've gone along paying exorbitant rents to open shops that offer less than marginal returns, they found that this is not necessarily the solution. Looking back over this period of, as I said, 2 decades of what we like to call modern retail in India, today we've got a lot more malls. We didn't have any malls 20 years back. We have a lot now. But if you think about it, I think most retailers will agree that there are not more than 20 malls in the whole country where you'd really like to have a shop. You'd have it in more because you need to, but that's limited. We have a lot more merchandise on offer. We have a lot more marketing that has happened to make retail work better. A lot has gone into manpower, management. But actually, if you look at all of this, really, retail today is drowning in a sea of mediocrity. And I think that's the main reason. It's not the advent of e-commerce or anything else. This is the reason why today people are really struggling to perform well in retail. The good news is that when you're lost in a sea of sameness, it's relatively very simple to stand out. And that's so long as you do something that is outstanding. Now, what is it that is the outstanding thing that retailers can do? Pretty much anything. I think pretty much any aspect of what you're doing in your business, if you choose to shine, if you choose to excel, if you choose to do it in ways that are different and unique from everybody else, I think you will shine. And even Mahesh talked about this earlier. Don't try to be the next XYZ, the next Amazon, the next whatever you do. Do something that's unique. You do something that will really make you stand out, and I think you can shine. And I think any retailer, and I think it's important to recognize that e-commerce, e-tailers are nothing but retailers. So any retailer can shine by really doing an outstanding job on any of these things. Now, some of them, e-commerce players are going to have an advantage over physical retailers. So if you look at choice, for sure you can offer much more choice on an e-commerce platform than you can in a physical store. There's that much more merchandise you can show. Convenience, no question about it. In many ways, it is more convenient to buy from your device than to go into a physical store and buy from home. Cost. Ashish, I don't know if he's here, but he started off by saying, people are not going to e-commerce for discounts. Give me another. Come on. Everyone here buys on e-commerce, and every one of you is buying because they're giving it away at these ridiculous prices on many of the marketplaces. But that having been said, even when this trend slows down, there will be certain cost advantages that e-commerce will enjoy over physical retail. And I think the most important point that wasn't mentioned in the opening talk was the fact that e-commerce has much wider reach. So in places where it's just not viable or economically sensible to open stores, you will have people who will be buying on e-commerce because they don't have access to a physical retail store. These were just some of the points I wanted to point out, share with you. And I think we're now going to go into our panelists. In most of the panel discussions that you will have, we'll have a general topic and everyone will be talking about that. So the first person will talk about it, then the second person will say the same thing, then the third person will say, I agree with him, and the fourth person will say, I agree with both of them. But we're going to do something a little bit different. We've broken this topic into 5 different elements, and we're going to ask each of our panelists to focus on one aspect of the new face, the changing face of retail. And we're going to start with Asif Merchant from Catwalk, who's going, Asif, you can talk from right there, yeah? Who is going to talk about competing with the big boys. Now, Asif's got a brand of shoes, as you all know, very successful, but there's a lot of international competition coming in, and we thought it'd be interesting to get his perspective on how brands should be competing with the big players of retail.
Afternoon, everybody. Can I just have the people with their hands raised who are there to sell as a brand? How many people are from the brand perspective want to sell? Okay, you know, in the times to come, selling a brand will become very, very difficult. And I recommend the Indian brands to, like what you correctly said, that there are a lot of aspects which needs to be unfolded. And I think what what I have mainly noticed is innovation. Unfortunately, in India, like I can tell you, what Zara does and what we Indian brands have failed is we have failed to innovate. If we see somebody doing it, we want to do the same thing again, what you correctly said. What we have not done is we have forgotten how to innovate. Now, when I started Catwalk, I started with a clear mandate that I want to make a brand. I'll never do cash and carry business. I will never do this, I will not do that. I will ensure that the brand perspective is always, the brand essence is always maintained. Today, we have got more than 450 point of sales. We sell one pair of shoes every 3 minutes online. We are the largest selling brand in this country when it comes to ladies' footwear. And it is all this because we worked very hard towards the brand positioning. We ensured, we understood the end consumer, we understood the Indian market very well, and we actually worked towards it so that when the competition, when it eventually comes, we are one up. We open up one point of sale every third day today. This is happening for the last 3 years. And trust me, this is only an outcome of patience to build the brand. Unfortunately, what I see in India, people lose patience. People just give up. They want to make, means I had partners who said that, boss, ये आपका जो brand बनाना है ना, you please keep it with you. मुझे तो आप return दो, मुझे ROI दिखाओ, मुझे do this, do that. But unfortunately, what people don't see that in this country, it's going to, means if anybody is talking about retailing, trust me, as per Mr. Nagesh, we have just scratched the surface. There is a lot more to come. So I recommend Indian brands, I recommend Indian players to please show patience, please build the brand correctly, please do the positioning correctly, and ensure that when actually the customer is buying, you are there to sell. So that's my, like we have worked very hard. Today we are all set to take on any kind of competition that comes in this country. We have got, we have put a lot of processes in place, we have put a lot of procedures in place, we have ensured that when actually competition sets in, we will be a winner all through and through. Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to raise your hand as we're going along, and I'd be happy to have some intervention. Or else, let's hear, so that's a pretty, I think, interesting and a very valid viewpoint that we're just starting the game. So let's not get too excited, let's not get too depressed about the way it's going. Okay. There's all the talk always of physical retail, online retail, and honestly, it's all retail. And today it's being given a slightly fancier name, which is omni-channel retail. Everyone's talking about it. So I thought it'd be nice to get somebody to talk about what is omni-channel retail and what does it really consist of and what are the opportunities. And Gilles, if you'd like to take this, talk to us about beyond the cliche of omni-channel retail.
Yeah, so when I was contacted to come here, I was asked to put something together about the omni-channel. It's true that it's some word that has come up in the recent years. So we tried to figure out what was actually the evolution of the retail. Like you said, retail is not dead, it's just that retail keeps reinventing itself. We started with the traditional retail, which we all know, where customers shop at a brick and mortar typical store. Then of course e-commerce arrived around 20 years ago, and then we went all about online retail. Then after that we spoke about multi-channel, where a customer one day will go to retail, another day will go online. And actually that's came up to with the arrival of the social media to what we call the omni-channel. Omni-channel is basically where the customer, the fact that the customer keeps evolving and keeps it's not like the customer has only one particular favorite channel. He will one day go online, the next day go offline with his family, visit a department store, on a Sunday go in a mall, and then back to work, consult his mobile. So that's what we call omnichannel. And actually, if you look at the journey of the customer, from the time he's inquiring about a product to the fact that he's purchasing the product and becoming advocacy, then there's a big journey happening between the online touch point, which are on the top of the chart, and the offline touch points. So if we start the offline touch point, will be, for instance, the store visit. The first time you're going to see a window, that will be your first contact. And that's how you're going to be aware, the customer is going to be get to know about the brand. Then after that, maybe the customer will do some search on Google or Yahoo, and that will be online. Then he will maybe consult a beauty forum or a site. That's again will be online. Consult an ad on TV or see an ad on internet will be online. Then again, it'll be offline. He'll visit the store maybe to evaluate a product. Then go back again online via an email that we'll have received from the brand. Then finally, he can as well receive a sample, maybe if you're in a hotel where he will have an amenities, and that would be offline. And then again, he'll go online and saw the brand on the social media. Then finally, buy the brand, or maybe because he just received a gift from a dear friend. So that would be again an offline touch point for the customer. Then finally, once he's tried the good, he'll be more than happy to leave a review on the site. So again, it will be online. So that to say that, as you can see, that I think in omnichannel, the customer keeps going on and off. And I think as a brand, and all brands, we need to try to find out how we accompany the customer in his journey on and offline. So here I've just put a few ideas about what can be done to drive. I mean, once we're offline, once the customer is online, we want to push him offline. And when he's online, how do we push him offline? So a simple thing is the store page. When you're on the website and you visit the brand website, more and more you need to disclose where are your stores, especially when you have a big network. And it's not as easy as you think you are, because the database is huge to handle, and it requires lots of work. But it can be very deceptive for a customer if the data which are on the website are wrong. It happened to me because I just was giving an example. I shifted to Delhi 2 years ago, and I wanted to go and visit a home store in the Defense Colony, and I visited a famous brand, Indian brand. I went on their website, and finally, because in Delhi I only work with my GPS, otherwise I get lost in this city. And when I reached the spot, it was a temple, so. And it was reading on Google. I was there, and I was looking for the place for like 10 minutes, and actually the data which was on the website was totally wrong. I never visited that store, by the way. Another way is to stock online. Some customer can check online the stock, but after that to shop offline. So that's something as well that can happen. Click and collect, which is another trend which can happen, and we do that in our French website. And again, in terms of upgrading the website, store locator improvements, and giving the proper itinerary for the customer to get lost and reach your store the best way. Then, like I was saying, once you're offline, you need to try to help the customer. So I think another way is to give incentive to the stores of what's happening in their city. Everything is linked together today. If today I do good sales in my Bombay store with L'Occitane, and if I still have many orders coming online, it's because somewhere the store staff must have done a good work so that the customer, if he's decided to, for whatever reason, shop online, he knows the brand, but the store staff should be helping me to release that. We shouldn't feel that, okay, that sale is not going to go in my kitty, you know. So I think that's something that the management needs to take care of, and we need to change the mentalities that everything is linked together. And then in some countries, and for some brands, you know, the arrival of new tools that will help offline to actually gather data faster than before, and connect the customers more efficiently via some mini iPad that will increase the efficiency of the operation, maybe sometime cut the queues and start entering data. That's a way to as well increase the quality of the information and of course personalize the experience of the customer. As a brand, we can see that the e-commerce is a big focus, and today worldwide I think we realize around 8% of the sellout via e-com, and we're forecasting to reach 20% in 5 years. What is important, be it offline or online, and that's where I think that retail is not dead, is that we still keep to reinvent ourselves. We need to both have to work together, and we have to now increase the frequency of the customer, and recruit new customers is always what we need to do. And we'll do that by always being inspired and have a brand where the creativity is very strong, and where people are happy to visit our stores, but as well happy to visit our online store as well. So basically, that was the idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilles. A lot of interesting points. Thank you for taking us through that study of all the different touch points that one would interact with consumers on when you're truly omni-channel. And of course, L'Occitane is doing that, and they're also, by the way, giving away a free hamper to anyone who can pronounce the name of the brand correctly. So you're welcome to contact Gilles after that and try your luck. I think the last slide you put up was very valuable. You know, you said that it's important to get new customers and avoid the churn of existing customers. In the first presentation, the opening today, Ashish mentioned all the concerns that e-tailers and e-commerce companies talk about. And they talked about acquiring customers, they talked about funding, obviously, they talked about supply chain, logistics, everything. But they don't seem to be concerned, strangely enough, with keeping customers, retaining customers. And I think that's probably the biggest opportunity that e-tailers have. You just need to, physical retailers have learned the hard way that that's most important. And it'll be nice to see that coming up on a string of concerns expressed by e-tailers in the not too distant future. Of course, there are a number of categories that we feel are meant only for physical retail and not for online. And typically the ones that require a lot of touch and feel, we think these are not going to work well online, but not necessarily the case. And I'd like to ask Asim to share his views on the importance of touch and feel for online and offline retailers.
Good afternoon, everyone. Being a brick and mortar retailer, there are a couple of products that we always felt would be difficult to sell online. And one of the products that we sell, which is Pashmina shawls. Product which you would like to feel and see the warmth, you would like to see, feel the material. So the first time customer who's going to buy something like that would always want to come and have a look at it when he's going to be spending quite a lot of money buying a Pashmina, authentic Pashmina shawl. Things are definitely changing. Another product would be jewelry. I mean, if people would like to come, have a look, feel it, see it, ask questions on the purity and all those kind of things. What we are seeing is, as a trend, with YouTubes, with videos, with customer reviews, a lot of these products are now being sold online. as far as the other products, I mean, the first time the customer would like to come touch and feel, but then the repeat business would happen online. So that's what we see as a clear trend. As kind of mentioned earlier as well, I mean, brick and mortar retail is not going to die, but it has to survive with either the multi or the omni-channel kind of business. And for us as a brand as well, we clearly see that while the customer will find time, if the store is near their place of work or place of residence, they'll come and visit the store and touch and feel the product or buy it themselves. But if they are not in a tearing hurry, they would love to buy it online, surely, I mean, because it's convenience. They know that the brand is going to deliver the right kind of product, so quality is not an issue. I think price is now getting more and more transparent. So I think it's more and more the convenience and not going through the traffic and the hassle of going to a physical store. So having a multi or an omni-channel presence, as I'm repeating, is going to be very, very important. Having said that, there are brands, especially internationally, and I'm sure a lot of Indian companies would do that if someone wants a pair of footwear or wants some jewelry, I think there are some jewelry companies already doing that, where they would send maybe 3 or 4 of them with a representative and allow the customer to touch and feel at their home or office and buy the product. So I think that's the trend which is going to go on, in the future, where even someone who really seriously wants to buy a product, as I keep mentioning about Pashmina shawl, they would say, okay, send me 3 or 4 home and let me have a look at it, and I'll buy the product. So I think that's what I feel, that the trend is completely changing towards that.
So you're saying that people are going to deal differently and present differently their merchandise when it's a high-touch kind of a thing. They'll look at innovative ways, different ways of dealing with it?
Yeah, I think also online, what tends to happen is there's far more information that gets available, whether it's specification of the product, which sometimes, customers do find it difficult to ask the salesperson, or he may not be even aware of certain things. So here you get a lot of data on the specs of the product, the material used, sometimes with a video, sometimes with customer reviews. So I think all this put together, there is more time for a customer to really go online and look at it. So as I said, that trend is definitely changing towards that.
Any thoughts on this from the audience? What's your view on whether touch and feel products, high touch and feel products, are going to be able to translate easily into an online environment?
I'm Ramesh Sethuraman. I think it's a very valid point in terms of touch and feel can be a complement to the entire business, especially the online. What is interesting is we are actually reinventing the wheel. If you look at 15, 20 years ago, the sariwalas used to come to our house. My mom and grandmom, if they want to buy saris, the guy used to bring 2 suitcases full of saris, show each and everything, touch and feel, and buy. The very interesting thing is there they can negotiate. The pricing, again, personalization, right? That's what we are again talking about when it comes to e-commerce and omni-channel and stuff. So coming back to the point, I think definitely it could add tremendous value for the high-touch goods and the one that needs full service. Whereas if you look at fully commoditized kind of things like electronics, you really don't want to, because you're doing enough research, and when you talk about the, let's say a camera or a mobile phone, you are reading enough reviews. And in some cases, if you look at it, your friends are carrying some of those devices, and of course you are having a hands-on feel of it, and then just you go and buy. So for that, you don't want somebody to carry 5 or 6 different mobile phones up to you, where you can play around and then decide which one you want to buy, right? So second thing is, I'm just jumping back to the previous topic about omni-channel. One thing that we are missing really here is there are 2 views from 2 different ends. So one is inside out, the other one is outside in. retailers sometimes just perceive what they think as what customer is looking for. They just go ahead and do it. Whereas, is that something really customers are also expecting from the other side and then transform? Because when you look at omni-channel, again, we are trying to generalize things and then putting a standard formula for everything, saying that, yes, these guys are doing, so I have to do it too. Again, in the omni-channel world, if you look at it, buy from anywhere, anytime, through any channel. But you also need to look at it to the next level. Fulfill from anywhere, anytime, through any channel. Means I can fulfill that a specific order from a customer, either from my DC directly, or I can ship it from store, which might be even cost effective, as well as it saves a lot of time for me.
You know, my wife, her nickname is Google because every time I start a sentence at home, she interrupts me. She finishes it for me. So I'm going to do the same. Thank you very much. You're married, right?
I do.
Right. Okay. I could tell. Okay. So thank you for those observations. And we are going to now, I think you're right. We need to pay more attention to the customers and what they want. And we're going to ask Atul from Apollo Pharmacy to share his views on the emerging customer, how the customer is really moving along and changing.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm going to share with you the kind of learnings and the insights, and I would call them a wisdom, that we get from the customers. We touch base with close to about 300,000 customers every day across India, across all sections of society. And one thing that I always wonder when I attend these kinds of conferences is that everybody talks about customer acquisition. Everybody talks about 1 million customers on their database having their phone numbers and all those stuffs. The thing that bothers me most is that what is the kind of value proposition that you take to the customer. See, whether the customer is coming to my brick and mortar store or your e-commerce store, at the end of the day, it is the value proposition. And that, what we understood from the customer is all about centricity of customer's requirement. And when we say that value proposition, it is not just the cost part of it, not just the low discounts, or high discounts. It depends on what kind of experience you start with. Now, I can tell you my example. I run a pharmacy chain, and for any one of you, if you could guess what is the kind of experience that we deliver, and we kept on looking at it, AC acha kar do, get a better ambience, do this, do that. And the last thing that I came to know was people expect us to read out their prescription properly in a language which they could understand and explain them. So after years of struggle, we realized that the experience, what we call, in terms of when we used to look at floorings and nice colors and whatnot, we did everything. So I think when you look at, in your context of e-commerce, I think it's all about experience. Second thing, when we're talking of experience, I look at a very smart assortment coming from you guys also. I get scared when I come to know that a website has got 200,000, 500,000, a million products on it. I don't know who can see more than 500 products in a one session. And the same thing applies to me also. A retailer like me, customer expect me that customer knows that I'm not a manufacturer. What I'm doing, the kind of value addition that I'm doing is that I'm doing a merchandising properly. So if I'm not able to present a right assortment to my customer, whether it's a brick and mortar store or a or e-store, I think that's a very valid point. I can give you some example like this. 10 years before, we used to sell soaps heavily. All kinds of soap we used to keep. But the kind of number of SKUs that we have, the kind of variety of soaps that we have, we took a call that that's not our thing. Let it be handled by a big box retailer who can do it better, who can display it, who can present an assortment to a customer in a better way. Now, while you do all those things in terms of customer experience, in terms of right assortment, what you are building up is a trust in the customer. And I think that's very important. And it's not just that we modern retailers are only custodians of the trust. It starts with even from ages, you would know that a local sweet shop, people would drive down 10, 15, 20 kilometers just on a trust factor. You would have some white goods retailers, people would swear by just because of the trust factor. And this trust is something that only comes by this kind of experience. And I can quote one recent study by, I don't remember, I think it was AC Nielsen, which said that chemist channel that I represent, and by the way, I'm just a small part of it. I'm just 2,000 stores out of a universe of 600,000 chemist stores that exist in this country. So, but the point is that just because of the trust factor that chemist brings to the table, the growth of FMCG, which is not our core category, we are Dawai Ki Dukaan, but FMCG is more of an ancillary for us. But still the growth of FMCG, where we are not specialist, as per AC Nielsen, was about close to about 14% in a chemist channel vis-a-vis 8 or 9% in the normal other channels. So I think that's where, if you are able to build up a connect with the customer, you're able to develop that kind of understanding with the customer, that brings a trust factor, which you actually reap on for years and years and years. For having said that, I think the fourth piece that I see in this whole connect is that, is there a convenience element? I was looking at Ashish's slide, which said that the whole idea of going to e-commerce is a convenience. I completely agree with that. And the same thing applies to our brick and mortar also. So there, what we do normally is to understand that for your format, for your product category, what is the cluster? What is the distance that a consumer is willing to travel? And then we fine tune our proposition, our retail proposition, keeping that cluster in mind, because that's the most important thing for us. I think these are some of the guiding principles that we keep in mind. And in this whole conversation, I haven't spoken about discounting, because in the last year and a half, one thing that kept brick and mortar retailers, wake up at night was the kind of humongous discounts that were being offered on the websites. And today, I learned from Manish was that it was a midday meal scheme by some PE funds who were actually subsidizing this kind of discount. So the comfort level I take home today is that this part is not going to last forever. But having said that, you have to deliver some kind of value proposition to the customer on the cost side also. And I think the biggest lever that a brick and mortar retailer or an e-commerce retailer can do is through a private label program, wherein you are not only able to offer a great value to your customers, but at the same time, you offer a great value to your shareholder also. So these are the 4, 5, 6 pillars that we broadly believe, principles, I would say, about customer engagement. And I'm pretty convinced on the fact that whatever number of list of customers I may have, their phone numbers, email IDs, at the end of the day, it's your value proposition. So that's something that keeps us focused while we work with the customers. And the last thing I think, which the observation I would make is that I come from a background, my pharmacy industry, wherein we are constrained to go online. Probably I'll be the only exception in the country wherein the law that governs my retail, which is the Drug and Cosmetic Act 1947, is not clear on the how to do e-commerce, how to do a retailing of medicines. But having said that, there again, when we said that we want to, and of course we have an e-commerce portal where we do selling online. And when we looked at that opportunity also, again, we went back to the same principle, that what is it that why customer would come online and not to a pharmacy where our penetration was very good. And then we realized that let's look at some kind of products where there is a higher level of engagement required, wherever there is a deep sense of research required. So let's look at, and then we figured out that categories like nutraceuticals, supplements, vitamins, wherein though they are OTC products, they are not covered within that law where we come in. Those were the products which we believe that could go, and that's what goes well for us also. Similarly, there were many other examples. Example was about sexual wellness, where we realized that people need privacy. In a pharmacy where you have a typical 100 square feet of space, you can't provide that kind of privacy to the customer. So at the end of the day, whether we were on a brick and mortar side or on the e-commerce side, the focus, the centricity was of the customer and what value we could deliver to the customer. Thank you.
Thank you, Atul. And the only thing I want to reassure you about is it's not that it's only the laws governing pharmacies are a bit outdated and unclear about e-commerce. It's actually pretty much all of them that don't know how to deal with e-commerce and the emergence of this channel of retailing that's happening. Like I said, any more questions or observations, please raise your hands, especially questions for the panel. We've got one there. If you could.
Good afternoon. My name is Anant. This question is open to the entire panel. Having heard Harminder that the offline sector getting into the online sector, what would you recommend to a brand whether to go in for all the marketplaces available in the country or have its own portal to sell it on?
Okay, Harminder's the only one actually who hasn't spoken yet, but but that's fine. He's got he has a very strong presence, so his silence also speaks volumes. You want to respond to that, Harminder? Right. Let him. Okay, Atul, go ahead. It was Atul's.
I'm so sorry. Sorry, Atul.
Gilles will take that.
Well, I think we go back to the omni-channel issue. If you're not seen, you're not bought. I mean, that's my policy. Customer, we have to see where your customer wants to buy your products. And L'Occitane sells on Flipkart. L'Occitane sells on Amazon. It was a big step, and my marketing was like, you're killing your own e-com. And since I've opened Amazon and since I've opened Flipkart, of course they don't have all the SKUs. My e-com has grown. So all that to say that, again, the customer can go to Amazon today, can go back to my website tomorrow, can go to the store day after. But if you're not there, you're not going to be bought for sure. So it's an opportunity loss.
Maybe a specific question to Asif bhai. My question was, being an owner of a mono brand retail, what would you prefer? Would you like to go in for all the marketplaces available, or would you like to have your own web store to sell your products through?
See, we come from a background which is called asset-light models. We don't build anything. So I recommend all the brands that there is an available platform. So identify yourself with the kind, like I am selling fashion. So I know there are 4 channels which sell fashion. So I need to be with all 4 of them. So you have to be very selective that where you want to be seen and how you want to be seen.
But exactly, if you actually see about not more than 15 to 20% of your merchandise is being taken up by all these marketplaces. They won't not be selling the entire merchandise of yours. So what happens to the balance 80% if you don't have your own web store?
No, but I think that you tweak your business model to suit that what they are actually looking for. We also learned when there was a question few years back, should we have our own store or we should go for shop and shop? Right. When we had our own store, we could display 500 options. When we went for shop and shop, we couldn't display maybe 120, 130 options. So we tweaked our business model to suit them because we found that we'll have a much faster growth, we'll have a much quicker growth. We will be available, like today we are available in more than 130 cities. It would have been not done by all of ourselves. So to be in 130 cities, we tweaked the business model. So when you're doing fashion, if you think you're doing fashion, you know there are 4 channels. So you ensure that you tweak your business model in such a manner where you're available with all those 4, and those 4 have a strength to take you miles and kilometers ahead.
So can we see Catwalk online one day?
We are our own portal? Yeah. I don't think so. Because we are again very asset light. We want to do the piggy riding.
You know, I think this question of really offline, online, everything else, there's nobody in this room, obviously, who has never bought in a physical store, right? Every single person here has bought in a physical store? Is there anyone here who has not bought something online? Anyone who's not spent a rupee online? Right. So every single one of you buys offline and online, uses all the channels, gets influenced by all the means of communication, whether digital, whether physical, whether anything else. And yet we sit in our boardrooms and our strategy sessions and we say, this is an online consumer, this is an offline consumer. There's no such thing. They're consumers. And they buy everywhere, everything, at all times.
My question to the panel is like, how do you see the physical channel, phasing out in a country like India and with the other channels being emerging? So how do you see the phase down of the physical channels in the coming years?
Everyone wants to answer that.
I think it will learn to coexist.
To answer your question, brick and mortar is not going to die. You'll have to keep doing things. As a brand, omni-channel is definitely the way to go. You'll have to be existing, like he said, in all the channels. And ultimately, say for instance, I'll quickly give you an example of our business because each one will have their own kind of thing. A lot of our business also does tend to be tourists or people visiting the city and things like that, right? They are going to buy things after having a look because they want to carry something back. You know, when you talk of an airport retail or whether it is, you know, anything like that, you definitely need to have a presence because someone needs to carry something back with them. It's maybe a guilt factor or whatever it may be. So unless someone doesn't need it immediately, he'll buy online. But if he needed something right there, right away, and he's not sure of what he wants, but he wants to go around having a look at it, he is going to go to a brick and mortar store. So very clearly, I don't see that going away for the next 2 decades. And I don't see that going away anyways in the future. Maybe there will be reduction, maybe there will be lesser stores, more concentrated stores, but definitely that is not going to die.
Anyone else? Way over there from Ahmedabad.
Surat.
Surat, okay.
Sir, what do you see the future of video shopping? If customer wants to take a look from customers seeing from America, want to take appointment and see on video conference like a sari, we are into sari business. So saris, and what do you see the opportunity like that?
Anyone?
I'm not sure if I've understood the question properly, but in our medical terminology, we do something called telemedicine, wherein we work closely with the patients as far as in Africa, wherein we are connected through not only just a video conferencing link, but supported by a software wherein all the medical records are being transmitted. So I don't know how to translate it to sari.
Yeah, but how do you see in fashion industry?
I'm not too sure. Sorry, I didn't get the question.
For fashion industry, what do you see? If you customers want to buy a product from home, he doesn't want to search on the web, he just want to take appointment on the video and see the products from the store.
See, I think nothing happens in this world on its own, right? Somebody has to make it happen. So you are asking a question that how will it happen? It will happen if you do it. You are a sari seller, and if you want to offer this service to your consumers,
we are already
it will
doing,
happen.
No, we are already doing. What do you see the
And
future?
I can assure you there are lots of other people who are also doing it. WhatsApp is being used in such creative ways these days. It's amazing. Right, how SMS and the missed call changed this country. I think WhatsApp has changed it dramatically after that. So people are using technology to do it whichever way. We may not hear about those case studies in the conferences, but people are doing that already. And it's not about sitting in Surat and selling in California. People sitting in Gurgaon and buying from Karol Bagh, they are doing it. Who wants to go to a store in Karol Bagh which will take you half a day journey and you eventually want to buy a pink sari? And these guys, they are offering that service to you. They are showing you the pictures, they take the videos, the guy a male who wears sari and does the song and dance in a Karol Bagh sari showroom, we can do it on a WhatsApp as well. So,
You know, there's talking about WhatsApp. Like everyone here, I'm on this WhatsApp group of my school batchmates from way back when. And it's a male school, all boys school. So, you know, obviously you can understand the kind of things that I exchange there. And whenever somebody travels to a different city, they say, anyone from the batch in this city? So last night there was a message from one of the guys, anyone in Hyderabad? This morning, first thing, one of my batchmates sent him a link to an escort service where you can, he said there's nobody from our batch there, but if you want some entertainment, here's a choice. And of course, you know, the whole variety. So if you can sell that online, you can sell, you know, saris for sure. No problem. Okay, I think we've talked a lot, we've covered a lot, and we've purposely kept till the end my friend Harminder, who is going to talk a little bit about the lessons that I asked him to share. What can offline retailers learn from online retailers and vice versa? So Harminder, over to you.
So good afternoon, everybody. So Jayant, when you said key lessons learned by online retailers, which they can pass on to offline retailers or offline retailers to online. So when you say offline retailers, I'm assuming that you mean organized retail sector, because somehow when we use the word unorganized sector for our traditional retail, obviously we mean that they have nothing which we can learn from them because they are so unorganized. But if you ask me between offline and online organized retailing, the first question comes to my mind is, are we not asking to blind people to show way to each other, right? Or are we not asking two infants to show each other how to walk and how to speak? Because just look at the numbers. When we organize retail, we talk about 8-9%. Just take out the brand stores out of that and come to pure retailing, which is multi-brand retailing, and you realize that it's less than 2% even after 15-20 years. And all the funding numbers which we talk about online retailers here, I think they're nothing comparison to amount of money which has gone into offline retail, trying to modernize online retail, offline retail. So now when we look at these numbers, just 1 or 2%, I think in a couple of years' time, multi-brand retail, the largest retailer could be an online retailer. So what can they learn from an offline retailer which is so small and it's taken them 20 years to reach this point? Infant, but 20-year-old infant, still not reaching anywhere. And the number of retailers which have shut down in the last 5 years is not funny, because it doesn't get covered that much, but there's so much which has gone wrong there. So when we talk about learning from each other, I'll rather say that rather than learning from each other, they should learn from how the retail industry has been and how it has evolved and how it will continue to evolve. Beyond this point, we couldn't have imagined this online revival happening after the dot bust which happened in '99. We wouldn't have expected, but it's happening, but something else could be coming in 5 years from now on. So there's no, I would say we are not reaching a point where there's an end of it. While we see the sci-fi movies, why everybody's wearing the same clothes, right? And why do you never see any stores? People don't even eat anything. They get their nutrients from the pills. Where will be requirement for retail? So what kind of retail will be there? Maybe there's no need for retail itself will be left. People don't need anything. But let's not go that far. But just looking at what it is today, what one should be looking at the retail industry, first part is very clearly has to be seen that in India, the real retail is the so-called traditional retail and the unorganized retail, how we call it. They are the supremos. 20 years, billions of dollars of investment, and needle has not moved. It's 98% of it is still being done either by the brand, their own stores, or the multi-brand retailers who are the so-called traditional retailers. They are doing it. If online retailers, they have to learn something, they should try to learn it from the traditional retailers, how convenience, how merchandise, how price, everything is offered, and they make money every day. You cannot be a shopkeeper and not make money at the end of the day, right? That's a fact. So if you are making money every day, there is something which you can learn from them. Secondly, clearly, any retailer in any business, any segment is an intermediary, right? And who wants an intermediary? Like Atul said that they are for merchandising, but yes, of course, I agree with that, but eventually I buy a brand and my choices become very clear. Yes, merchandise or range is required in certain cases, but many categories that's not required. Retailer is an intermediary, and in India, organized retail or a branded retail, Indian consumers are not used to the idea of buying from a branded retail. Consumers in this country have always bought the brands. That's why they could shop even with the worst kept stores, which didn't allow any browsing, which kept them on the street and sold things over the counter, because eventually they were buying a Colgate, or they were buying a Peter England shirt, or whether they were buying a Praful sari. So they could live with all of that because they had nothing to do with the retail. It's to do with the brand. This is the brand which I'm buying. I have the confidence. I have gotten what I want. Its business is about brand. So retail as a brand is a completely new and an alien concept to this country, as compared to countries like UK and US, where you have Marks and Spencer and JCPenney's and the Walmarts of the world for decades. So people are used to dealing with retailers. In India, people are not used to dealing with retail brands. So whether it's a Myntra or whether it's a Flipkart, they have to keep this in mind, that even today the big bazaars and the Reliance Trends of the world, they mean very, very little to the Indian consumer. They mean a lot to the people who are funding these businesses, but they don't mean much to the consumer. Very little share has gone to these companies. And in these stores also, people are still buying brands. Look at the share of the brands versus private label. You will be amazed at how much money most of the retailers lose on private label. That's why they keep on putting in and taking it out and shrinking. So it needs to be kept in mind that if you are investing money into building retail brand, are you investing in the right thing? Do consumer even care about it? Third and the last lesson, which I would say, consumer, eventually the business is between the brand and the consumer. let's take a case study. Somebody has to buy a pair of Nike shoes. What does Nike do? Nike designs a pair of shoe, they send it with bill of material to somebody in China to manufacture it. The shoe gets manufactured, put in a container, sent to India. Somebody does the logistics, gives it to their franchisee. Franchisee puts in the store, you come and buy from there and take it home. 10,000 rupees you paid for it. Out of that 40%, 4,000 rupees goes to all this in between. Nike gets 6,000. Out of that, probably they pay 1,000, 1,500 rupees to the manufacturer. But 40% going where? What value is it adding? Somebody will question that someday. So organized retailers came into the picture saying that, oh, we can do it much better. Offline retailer, organized offline retailer. We can do it much better. They've been trying for 10, 15 years, not able to make money out of it. Then the online retailers have come in and we don't know how they are going to, but they're saying that we'll do it smarter. We will, out of this 40%, will pass on 20, 30, 40, or sometimes even more than that to the so that more people can buy Nike. So Nike, aren't you happy about it? Yes, Nike is quite happy about that. But is there any value which is being added to the consumer in this whole process where the 40% is disappearing? And today Nike is figuring out eventually, oh, this is the smarter, and this is the smartest channel. So they are going with it. Tomorrow Nike can sell this pair of shoe directly to the consumer, because consumer doesn't come online looking for a running shoe and then finds out Nike. Nike is a strong enough brand where somebody will come online and will search for Nike, particular pair of shoes, and will get that. Channel doesn't matter. So it could be coming directly from Nike. Nike in that case has to send this file to China, get the footwear from there, and then straight away comes to the consumer. It could be delivered at 7,000 rupees instead of 10,000, and I'm sure with the 30% reduction, there could be at least 30% more consumers who can start buying, and Nike will be quite happy with that. Eventually, technology may take over and Nike will be sending these files to your smartphone and you can go and print that footwear anywhere you like. It doesn't even have to go to China and come from there. So I think this cockiness about online now going to take over the whole offline world, offline not only organized, unorganized, all of that, I think this is misplaced. We don't know which technology, which event around the corner is going to change that. Eventually, it's the businesses of brands. So if the question, in a way, one can paint this picture and say that nothing is going to happen, but brands are going to remain, consumers are going to remain. So there I would say that Asif very well said that the business is about brand. He's investing in his brand. To him, it doesn't matter where it sells from. It eventually should reach the consumer. That's exactly brands like Coke have become such powerful brands. That's exactly brands like Nike have become such strong brands. In India, sometimes most of the time, we have been confusing owning a store by thinking that we have become a retailer. So if we as a brand run a store, we think we have become a retailer. No, you are running that store because you didn't have an option to put your brand in somebody else's store. Otherwise, that should have been the default option rather than trying to open your stores everywhere. Because consumers will need range, consumers will need merchandise, need experience, all of that. All put together, I think business is about brands. So whether offline retailers or online retailers, Jan, your question, lesson to be learned, I think keep the unorganized retail in focus. Keep the brand in focus. I think that's the way to go, and that's the way to survival and create value. Rest, everything is intermediary. Who funds it doesn't matter to me. As a consumer, I enjoy. As a startup investor, I may enjoy all of that. But eventually, return for somebody will come only if they own the brand. Thank you.
Thank you, Harminder. So I think till that day comes when a product design is sent to your home and you print it out on your personal 3D printer. I think till then, yes, we need to all be, what I take away most from there is we need to be humble in the face of the consumer and make sure that our brands are really delivering the value that they seek. Anyone else have any questions or thoughts you want to explore before we end the session?
Hi, I'm Satwik. Now you said that consumers are happy as long as they buy the brand that they like. But what about on the manufacturer side? Now there are new business models like Lenskart, let's say, or Warby Parker in the US, or Casper. So within these companies, they are cutting down on the entire intermediaries and getting lots of new profits from this. So why shouldn't brands in India adopt these tactics?
No, very clearly, I think that's exactly what I meant by saying that how something is going to, and brands like Nike will directly go to the consumer, because any intermediary, even if it's somebody who is running or managing your website, is an intermediary. He's putting the catalog and he's doing the deliveries for you. That's what he does. Can somebody not do it for you for a service rather than for a margin? Why should I give you 40% for this? I'll give you 400 rupees for this. Not good enough, take 500. But don't bother about it, how much money am I charging for that box which I am shipping. So I think that's how the cost will be cut, and everybody will do that. When you talk about people like Lenscraft and all, because there are certain categories where the brands have kept the pricing so high, right? While there is a possibility to deliver the same product at a much lower price. So whether it's the frames or the lenses, I think that's what's going on there. That clearly is that consumer was being cheated, right? So I'm not, let's say, wanting to say it politically right, but that's true. There are certain categories. Similarly, you will see that in many other categories like jewelry, you'll find that people will be able to deliver at a much better price the same product. And the brands who have not been doing that, so new brands will get created. So here is a brand which gives you this product, equally good, but at a much better price, not because they are cutting the cost, right? Chances are maybe they are just sharing the margins. Cutting cost is the next level. Otherwise, there are a lot of segments where brands are taking too much margin, and obviously everybody enjoys that.
Good enough. Thanks.
Over here.
I'd like to know omnipresence, omni-channel market. Isn't it increasing the cost being offline, being online, both ways? Like you mentioned, the intermediary, and still being offline as well. Isn't it increasing the cost of a product?
Gilles, you want to talk about that?
At times it complements also, because when you do the delivery through your store outlets, if you're a brick and mortar and e-commerce player also, so it again depends how you optimize the network, and I would say it's all about looking at it with one picture. So if you are organizationally placed in a manner where you have got e-commerce department and a brick and mortar department, that's a death warrant you have signed for your e-commerce team, for sure. So it's all about optimization, sharing, and at the end of the day, it's the same customer, because when you say omni-channel also, the same customer today is buying through brick and mortar or your physical store, next day is on that store. So I think if the consistency of experience is the name of the game, as we always hear from people, at the back end you can't be different, and that's how you save on the cost.
I think it will cut down your cost. All of a sudden, you're talking to such a huge community, trust me. People will be looking at you 24 hours. You'll never get this opportunity again. You need to just build the brand very fast, very quickly. This is the time. Don't get too late. Once you have an invasion of brands coming from globally across, you will not have time to breathe also at that time. So I think the time is right. The costing will go down. Efficiencies will build up. A lot of things will happen, because the quantity what we are talking about, as I told you, we have just scratched the surface. We sell 1.5 million pairs a day. I would have never thought of it in my life when I was selling shoes on the roads. I never thought. So then again, I'm telling you, we have just scratched the surface. So efficiencies will be built, because the kind of buying what you're going to do and the buying and selling what you're going to do is going to be unreal. You must have never dreamt of it in your life.
I think that's a very good tone to end on. I think the opportunities are so huge. We're just scratching the surface. This is a really exciting time to be in the retail business, whether you're online, offline, omni, whatever you are. This is a great time to be interacting with consumers, selling products to them. There's so much happening. You can learn from everyone around, and that's what everyone is doing at conferences like these and everywhere else. You're learning from experiences of others. You have people sending product home for trial. You have people selling only on television, only online, only offline. You can see what's happening. You can see who's making money. You can see where the opportunities are. You can grab these opportunities and make the most of it. I think it's been a fabulous conversation. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I hope you have too. Thank you very much to the panel, and thank you very much to all of you.